Hey everyone, welcome to Mr. U's Reviews. Today I'm reviewing the new film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Black Widow. This film follows Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, between the two films Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War, as she rediscovers people from her past and faces a personal threat. Let's start out with the acting and characters. Now, most of the actors, they do a good job in their roles. Scarlett Johansson really knows this character well, playing her for over a decade now, ever since 2010, in Iron Man 2. So she gives a great performance once again. And Rachel Weisz is also in this film, and she gives a fine performance as well. But the two standouts, in my opinion, were Florence Pugh and David Harbour. Now with Florence Pugh, over the past few years, she's been giving consistently strong performances, and once again in this film, she gives the character of Yelena a lot of depth. You feel emotionally connected to her, and that's a character that I would like to see in future MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. And she's just been really strong over the past few years, so she's been really standing out. And with David Harbour, his role as the Red Guardian, that's his superhero name in the movie. At first it seemed like the character was gonna be more just used for comedy, but later on, when you see his character get back into the superhero world, he had a good mixture of comedy but also nice action. So I kind of liked seeing how he played that role with a good mixture of both. He knew when to be comedic and then when to just be kind of cool at the same time. So those were two standouts in my opinion. Unfortunately though, the villain of Taskmaster was very generic and quite underwhelming. It doesn't really have too much to do with the acting of that character. It's mostly the writing of that character. You learn that this villain can kind of mimic whoever it's fighting, but you only see glimpses of that in the film. It doesn't really use that character to its full potential to create high stakes. So it was just very generic by the end of it, and I thought they could have done more with that villain and really make the film more thrilling as a real strong villain to kind of fight this group of characters, some in that group that we know and some new characters. So overall, those are my thoughts on the acting and characters. Now with the story of this film, the story makes the film watchable for sure. It's enjoyable. It kind of follows the story beats of like the average generic spy movie, because Black Widow is a spy. But in other ways, it has some surprising twists and turns, which I liked seeing. Where the story falters the most though, is just knowing the fact that it takes place between the movies Civil War and Infinity War. Because that Black Widow in Infinity War, at least she's there, she survived whatever happened before that movie, and she's not really injured in any way. So with this film, a lot of the stakes are really lessened because they're not worrying that something might happen to her in this movie. And on a side note, I feel like this film has come out way too late. It should have at least come out before Endgame, especially with the events concerning Black Widow in that movie. And as a result, it feels like this film is more of a movie transitioning away from Black Widow than it being an actual Black Widow solo film. And it's good to have that kind of transition to these new characters, which we can see in like the next Marvel movies or shows. But it was kind of underwhelming to know that this was our Black Widow film, and it more focused on kind of transitioning to other characters, while still of course keeping a focus on Black Widow. But overall, it was still fun and watchable with the story. Now with the directing, I thought Kate Shortland directed this film well, especially with the action scenes and how the stunts and the choreography really complemented the directing of the action scenes. They were engaging and exciting as you watch the movie for sure. And even with the quieter, more character-driven scenes, Shortland was consistent throughout the film, so she did a good job. And yeah, the stunts and the choreography stood out in this film, in my opinion. Overall, Black Widow was a watchable yet pretty average superhero film. There are some things that work here, such as the cast all around, especially Florence Pugh and David Harbour. And the film was directed well with a great stunt team that create just engaging action scenes when combined with the directing. But a lot of the stakes were lowered by the fact that there's a very unmemorable villain, Taskmaster, and just knowing that this film takes place in between Civil War and Infinity War, it lets the audience know that Black Widow will have to survive this film because she's in Infinity War. So you're not really worrying for her character too much throughout the film. And unfortunately, this movie just felt more like a Black Widow transition movie, kind of transitioning away from the character of Black Widow to these new characters instead of a true Black Widow solo film. And I understand why they have to transition away from her, especially, after Endgame and all. But we've been waiting years and years for a Black Widow movie, so I wish there was more of a focus on the character of Black Widow than what we got in this film. So I give Black Widow a C+. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and as always, don't forget your popcorn. Until next time, from Mr. U to you, stay tuned.